Well, for today's Daily McGonagall poem, we'll be reading The Pennsylvania Disaster, which is a reference to the Johnstown Flood of 1889. Here's the poem. It was in the year of 1889, and in the month of June, 10,000 people met with a fearful doom by the bursting of a dam in Pennsylvania state, and were burned and drowned by the flood. Oh, pity their fate. The embankment of the dam was considered rather weak, and by the swelled body of water the embankment did break, and burst o'er the valley like a leaping river, which caused the spectators with fear to shiver. And on rushed the mighty flood, like a roaring big wave, whilst the drowning people tried hard their lives to save. But 8,000 were drowned and their houses swept away, while the spectators looked on, stricken with dismay. And when the torrent dashed against the houses, they instantly toppled o'er. Then many of the houses caught fire, which made a terrific roar. And 2,000 people by the fire lost their lives, consisting of darling girls and boys, also men and their wives. And when the merciless flood reached Johnstown, it was 50 feet high, while in pitiful accents the drowning people for help did cry. But hundreds of corpses by the flood were swept away, and Johnstown was blotted out like a child's toy house of clay. Alas, there were many pitiful scenes enacted, and many parents, for the loss of their children, have gone distracted, especially those that were burned in the merciless flame. Their dear little ones they will never see again. And among the sad scenes to be witnessed there was a man and his wife in great despair, who had drawn from the burning mass a cradle of their child. But, oh heaven, their little one was gone, which almost drove them wild. Oh heaven, it was pitiful and a most agonizing sight, to see parents struggling hard with all their might, to save their little ones from being drowned, but 'twas in vain. The mighty flood engulfed them with a roaring sound. There was also a beautiful girl, the belle of Johnstown, standing in bare feet on the river bank, sad and forlorn, and clad in a loose petticoat with a shawl o'er her head, which was all that was left her, because her parents were dead. Her parents were drowned, and their property swept away with the flood, and she was watching for them on the bank where she stood, to see if they would rise to the surface of the water again, but the dear girl's watching was all in vain. And as for the Conemaugh River, there's nothing could it surpass. It was dammed up by a wall of corpses in a confused mass, and the charred bodies could be seen dotting the burning debris, while the flames and sparks ascended with a terrific hiss. The pillaging of the houses in Johnstown is fearful to describe, by the Hungarians and ghouls, and woe betide any person or party that interfered with them, because they were mad with drink and yelling like tigers in a den. And many were to be seen engaged in a hand-to-hand fight, and drinking whiskey and singing wild songs. Oh, what a shameful sight! But a number of the thieves were lynched and shot for robbing the dead of their valuables, which will not be forgot. Mrs. Ogle, like a heroine in the telegraph office, stood at her post, and wired words of warning, else more lives would have been lost. Besides, she was warned to flee, but from her work she wouldn't stir, until at last the merciless flood engulfed her. And as for the robbery and outrage at the hands of the ghouls, I must mention Clara Barton and her band of merciful souls, who made their way fearlessly to the wounded in every street, and the wounded and half-crazed survivors they kindly did treat. Oh heaven, it was a horrible sight, which will not be forgot. So many people drowned and burnt. Oh, hard has been their lot. But heaven's will must be done, I'll venture to say, and accidents will happen until doomsday. Well, he was wrong on one count. The flood actually happened on the last day of May, not in June. But otherwise, actually fairly factual, if a bit overblown. I don't know what we'll do tomorrow. Will we do disaster? Will we do a famous person? We'll have something from McGonagall, I can tell you that. I just don't know what yet. But we'll see you then.